Do you have a secret sister?
I believe I do have a sister out there.
Child, no matter how hard Janet Jackson tries, all the talk and whispers about her having a child with James DeBarge are still not going away. There have been several stories from people close to them and her fans from the 80s who are convinced that they had either seen or at least heard that she was pregnant and had a baby girl. And it didn't help that everyone from the DeBarge family, including James himself, has said that there was a child and Janet was doing everything to keep them away.
It's the DNA test, and it says the probability of relatedness is 96.7%. You didn't believe there'd be a match.
No way.
Now, allegedly, James seems to have broken through to Janet because he might have finally gotten into contact with his long-lost daughter after years of looking crazy.
If it's true, you'll find out when she's ready for you to find out.
I'm sure he feels betrayed. I'm sure he feels sad. I'm sure he feels disappointed. I'm sure he feels like he was robbed of that relationship with his daughter. But at the same time, I know my dad loves Janet till this day. I know that her family had a huge influence on her. And, you know, if she was pregnant, the only thing that I can think of was that they felt that she still had a very long career ahead of her.
Girl, this ain't the first time that James DeBarge and his family or people who watched Janet from back in the 80s have had something to say about there being a secret daughter that Janet doesn't want the world to know about. At one point, Janet even had to come out and address it, and she said that she isn't the type of person to keep a child from their father. And it's crazy that anyone would ever think that.
They were saying that I had a child and I kept it secret. How could I keep a child from their father? I could never do that. That's not right.
I don't know where that ridiculous idea came from.
Where was the baby? Nobody saw a baby. I mean, she was there with us all day, every day. Where was the baby? Where? Who? Where?
They were saying that I was raising her daughter. I couldn't believe it.
First they were saying my niece Brandy was my daughter, and then I gave it to Jackie to raise.
But doesn't anyone else find it odd the way Janet just shut down those rumors? She's never said, "I don't have a child with James." Full stop. Period. She's never denied that a child exists, but just use all of her years of being PR trained to skirt around the question. Now the question is, if there really was a child, why did Janet feel the need to hide it? Well, it all came down to how chaotic Janet and James' relationship was, Janet's toxic father, and the battles James was dealing with around the time that their child was allegedly born. When Janet and James met in 1982, she was a rising star and the youngest of the legendary Jackson family, already making waves with her roles on shows like Good Times and Different Strokes. James was a part of the DeBarge family band and they were a monotone act known for hit songs like Rhythm of the Night, All This Love, I Like It, etc. You know what I'm talking about. And when they met through Hollywood circles, they instantly fell in love. And according to several family insiders, Joe didn't see James as a boyfriend. He saw him as a problem. James was already struggling with drug addiction, and Joe believed that the relationship could derail Janet's career and stain the Jackson family image. But in 1984, our girl Janet decided to elope and she married James. In fact, the DeBarge family adored Janet and James' uncle officiated their marriage. But child, when Joe found out, all hell broke loose. Allegedly, Joe threatened to cut Janet off completely if she didn't break the marriage. And Joe's anger was incredibly intense. Mind you, Janet was only 18 and James was 21. Joe wasn't just acting out because he was Janet's father. He was also her manager and her career was on the rise. He was obsessed with control and their family image and legacy, which is part of the reason why Janet later distanced herself from him as she got older. And this is around the time that Janet got pregnant. Some alleged that she married because she was already carrying. Whatever the case, if it was true, she could in no way reveal to the world that she was about to become a mother at 18. That would have been catastrophic for the family's image. Also, James was grappling with a severe addiction, which made things even harder for her. James also confirmed that the two of them were very much in love with each other. He claimed that it was just a case of right person and wrong time, and if they were both a bit more mature, they would have worked perfectly. In her 2022 Janet Jackson documentary, Janet spoke about how bleak and unromantic their marriage was as James' addiction got worse. She tried to play the supportive wife, often putting his needs above her own career. and Janet initially planned to stick by him and help him through it. I mean, sometimes she would even be called to pick him up from odd places and would be forced to go find him while he was lying somewhere drunk. Whenever she found pills lying around the house, she would either try to hide them or flush them straight down the toilet. And this led to constant arguing between her and James. So, by March 1985, just 8 months after their wedding, Janet got an annulment. And if they really did have a child, exposing it to someone who was struggling with fame and the addiction that came with it would have never been a good thing. And do y'all remember how crazy the 80s were? Back then, celebrity culture was exploding and the tabloids would do almost anything to get their hands on a scandal, especially one with the Jackson name all over it. And Joe Jackson was media savvy enough to know what the news of a child would do to her career, and may have tried to keep it under wraps as much as possible. In fact, there are several articles around that time that talked about how Janet was seen less and less in media and the public. It's almost like she was hiding. And when she came out again, she was a divorced 18-year-old. She had gained weight because she was simply stressed out from working too much. And also, according to Janet, because she was on birth control. Her Fame co-star Debbie Allen corroborated her story, noting that Janet was on set every day working long hours with no signs of pregnancy.
Where was the baby? Nobody saw a baby. I mean, she was there with us all day, every day. Where was the baby?
James, on his own part, never stopped believing that he had a daughter out there. No matter how Janet tried to turn it around, he kept on saying that he wasn't going to give up on meeting his daughter. His own family, too, doubled down with him and made it clear that Janet and James did have a child, and they had no idea why they weren't allowed to see or talk to her.
See Janet where you thought she was pregnant?
Yes. When the marriage was annulled, that Janet was pregnant. And James believed that as well.
You believe that there's a child.
I think we all believed that James and Janet had a child.
But now that enough time has passed, word is that Janet has let up a bit and doesn't mind James and their daughter finally getting to know each other as long as his family doesn't find a way to blow it up and make it a public thing again. And maybe that's why even James and his family have stopped talking about it in public. Still, news about it managed to make his way out to the streets and people are feeling a bit vindicated that there was a child all along, and it wasn't just some rumor going around. If a father was on drugs, you should distance your child from mess and dysfunction. This child is of age and if she wants to meet her dad, she will. Well, I distinctly remember her being a main character on Fame. When she had a growing belly, they fired her without explanation. They said she was just gaining weight but only around her belly. As far as the annulment, it was supposedly her father that made her get one, but definitely looked at least 6 months pregnant before she finally left the show. I remember Right On magazine announcing that Janet and James were expecting a child, and then it disappeared. The song Control came out shortly afterwards. But what do you guys think about all this? Sound off in the comments and make sure you hit that like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye baddies.